Hey man, look what I found.
You? What on earth is that?
It's a computer I found.
Found?
I think it was labeled as like the most uninteresting technology in the world. Do you want it?
No. Why would I want it?
It's a computer. You like computers?
Not computers like that.
It's free. You can do whatever you want with it.
Not interested.
You can run obsolete operating systems on it.
Did you say obsolete operating systems?
Maybe even ancient versions of Windows and DOS.
I shouldn't, but
Windows 98 could have drivers for it.
for fuck's sakes. Okay, hand it over. Now never come back again.
You know you want me to.
No, I don't.
I could bring stuff with weird CPUs.
Shut up.
So, here is the laptop. And what makes this laptop incredibly uninteresting, even though it's fairly gross and everything, is this thingamabob here. It says Torion 64X2, which means this is a 64-bit dual-core CPU. A very, very early 64-bit dual-core CPU. Who knows who finds those interesting? I know who finds those interesting. It is absolutely nobody who finds these interesting, because here's the thing with these kinds of computers. They are not old enough to be really all that nostalgic, and they're not new enough to run anything modern. So like you're caught in this weird halfway between retro and modern, and I just want to see if there's anything interesting or cool or retro or anything of the sort we can do with this thing. Here's the problem. We have a lot of ports. This is a chunky computer. This is like a very, very beefy pro computer. It has a DVD writer, no less. It has USB. It has FireWire, which is fairly unusual. It has a modem port. The back doesn't have anything except the power, and I have to admit I have no clue what this is. Wait, is it PS2? No, I think it says video. It has an Ethernet port, thank goodness. It has VGA. Ooh, how exciting. More shit slow USB and the audio ports. What it doesn't have is a PS2 port. A PS2 port would be excellent if you want to run anything older than Windows 98, because Windows 98, it might have even been Windows 98 second edition, which was the first one that introduced USB support. So you can't run anything really old on this. Well, maybe I'll have to check. Maybe these are connected through a PS2 interface. If that's the case, then there's maybe a bit more that can be done with it. It's designed for Windows XP, Windows Vista capable, which means that it is not Windows Vista capable. Now, Windows XP does not interest me in the slightest. I actually never owned a Windows XP computer. I went from Windows 98 to Linux to Windows 7. I kind of tipped my toe back in Windows-y stuffs because I wanted to run some games. Not an issue anymore. I'm back to Linux. And obviously, since this was at my dad's, and I did not want to run any tech support, it runs Linux. But as you can see, it is dog shit slow, and it is about as loud as a modern jet fighter. Okay, here's the deal. I really like how these old laptops, especially the businessy types, they had everything exposed. Like here's an extra RAM slot, unpopulated, didn't come with extra. Maybe at some point, if I can find something fun to do with this, I'll populate it, but probably for what I'm planning to do with it, we really don't need to. The battery, in shockingly good condition considering the time in which this thing came from. It doesn't hold much of a charge, but it holds a charge and it's not ballooned or anything, so I don't think it's gonna explode. And that's pretty important. I like when my home doesn't explode. However, here's the failure point. I was thinking I'd do the whole YouTube computer thing where I take this apart, try to get it to be more quiet by like clearing up all the fans and maybe reapplying thermal paste and all that. I couldn't figure out how to take this apart. I've taken all the screws off except these ones because I don't want the keyboard to go ka-chunk and then me not be able to put this back together. Now it could be these two screws, but I don't think so because I tried to pry it from the sides and stuff, and no. I mean, I could look at tutorials, obviously, I'm sure there's like information about it, but then I was like, it's very beyond the scope of this video anyway, and like maybe I should first check if there's actually anything I can do with this computer before I start going to that extent. So what I decided is that I'm going to try and see if we can get anything good out of this thing, and then I'll think of those things. But what I am going to do, because this is from my dad's study, is I'm going to clean it. Not because my dad is especially filthy, but because he has a lot of stuff there, so... And while we are watching myself clean the thing, I should mention that what I did do is that I shoved a vacuum cleaner to every orifice imaginable in this computer and pried it a bit loose, or as loose as I could get it, and just put it on full blast, trying to get things out of there. And what I actually did notice was that one of the CPU fans, or the cooling fans, was not spinning freely, and it had a lot of grime. So after that, I noticed that it runs significantly quieter. So hooray! I did something. Now here's the thing I will be getting rid of, is the hard drive, because this is full of dad data. So, obviously. Now, some of you might think that me being snarky means that I have a bad relationship with my dad. I do not. He's coming over today. However, I will not be showing him this video. Okay, so a bit of cleanup later, and what I'd say is reinserting most of the screws. I think I have all the important ones. Let's see what this thing has eaten for breakfast. Okay, system information. This has, as we knew, AMD Thorium 64 X2 mobile 2 gigahertz. It has a whole gig of memory, and it is, the ROM date is from 2006. If I press any one of these volume keys, it does this. That is so weird. Let's see what else it has nothing very interesting, though. I don't think I've seen this particular version of BIOS before. Or is this UEFI? Let's check if it recognizes the HDD. Well, I think it recognizes the HDD because it's saying it takes time. Let's check the memory while we're at it. And while it's doing that, what we're going to install to it today is FreeDOS. FreeDOS probably a lot of you know, but for those who don't know, it's an open source DOS compatible operating system that should be 100% compatible, and from my experience it pretty much is. So that's what we're going to run on the device today, and they have a USB version of it, which is much easier than how I used to do this before. Here's what I just noticed. They recommend using a PC emulator to install FreeDOS. What on earth is this pansiness? No, I am Belina Etchering this fucker. Meanwhile, we've had some very exciting developments over here. Memory test has passed, and only the best kind of crap for this PC. I found the most beat up 2 GB data traveler USB 2 thing from 1975. So let's see if this will boot the thing. USB hard disk. Here we go. And here we are in the FreeDOS install through my very cheap VGA capture thingamabob. So excuse the questionable quality, but here we have the language options. My preferred language would obviously be Tokipona. It doesn't have that. It has Esperanto, which I have to admit, points for Esperanto. But let us go with English. We shall want to continue with the installation, and we do want to partition the drive. I got confused at first because I was like, drive D, but yeah, it's when it's booting from a USB thing, it recognizes that as the drive C, but after it's installed, that's no longer an issue. So we're partitioning the hard drive. Obviously, what's nice about this is that it recognizes larger hard drives. So this screen does not fill me with the greatest confidence, but okay, let's reboot and see what it does. Oh, look at that. Control-Alt-Delete doesn't work. How promising. Okay, one reboot later, my preferred language still is English, at least for the purposes of this. Let's continue with the installation. Drive D does not appear to be formatted, so it looks like our creation did go through. Let's do it. Press a key and a countdown. What happens if I don't press a key before the countdown ends? Oh, the questions, the uncertainty. What should I do? What should I do? Oh, we'll never know. My guess is that the computer would have exploded. We'll go with UK English because it is closer. Let us overwrite everything and let's see. Plain DOS system, DOS system, its sources, full installation including applications and games. Games, you say? Yes, please. So let's do that. Yes, please install FreeDOS 1.3. This was much easier than the first time I installed FreeDOS, which was to my actual vintage computer that since then I was stupid enough to throw away. It was a 486 DS2 66 megahertz, like the vintage retro computer, but obviously a lot of us were dumb enough to throw them away. But FreeDOS was at 0.9, and obviously the computer did not support CD-ROM installation. It took me a whole day to even get it going, But after that, it worked perfectly. Oh, I enjoy these game names. It got Boletaire. Now it got Boom. I wonder what these games are the clones of. Let's see, what would be next in the alphabet? Bass Effect. Oh, that would be a good rhythm game. Bass Effect. It would have an ending that nobody but me likes, and then they do a new ending which I don't like as much, because I enjoy old-time science fiction, and leaving things a bit open-ended is just the way I like it. And yes, this installation took quite a while. And while we're watching it do the very exciting thing of moving the bar from the left to the right, I should mention that the hard drive was completely wiped before I did the install. I know that if you have existing partitions on the drive, you will have to go through FDisk to delete the existing partitions or reformat the existing partitions. And FDisk is not the most intuitive or user-friendly piece of software there is. So what you can actually do is like maybe run a live instance of Linux before it and use a bit more modern partition manager if you want to. Completely up to yours, of course, but that works as well, and that's actually what I did, because I actually wanted to start with a completely wiped hard drive, and that I thought was the easiest way to do it. One of the things also that I should mention is that FreeDOS is Linux based, so it runs the Linux kernel, and that's very good news for these kinds of shitty old computers, because usually these kinds of old CPUs, old graphics cards and the like, they work really well with the Linux kernel, because Linux comes with pretty much all the drivers. Especially, well, these days it also comes for all the drivers with the new devices, but like historically, even when I started using Linux way back in the day, it had drivers for all the old things. So it runs always, even if like modern proprietary operating systems don't really like to run on anything older than like yesterday, this thing will actually run. Will it work in the first boot though? I highly doubt it, since I haven't done this much. Hurrah! We are transferring boot files and installing fresh configuration files. Okay, that took quite a while because, yes, old computer, that's just how it is. But it is now complete. And do I want to reboot now? Yes, please. Reboot now. Oh, holy shit, it booted. Okay, so load FreeDOS with JMMEX, no EMS. Most ultra mobile, max RAM free, more compatible. Let's try with the expanded memory, because I know we'll be trying to get things working that did require extended memory. But whoa, here we are. Worked from the first boot. I really did not expect it to work from the get-go, because I just expected it to be a pain in the ass, because usually trying to do these kinds of things you encounter pain in the ass kinds of things. But let's do the most exciting command you can do in DOS, which is dir. And here we can see we have apps, we have FreeDOS, which I assume are the like system files. We have games, yay games. We have net, we have PGME and utilities. Of course, because this is YouTube and we are retroing, we are gonna check the games first. So let's do that. dir/w. We can see we have the aforementioned Boletaire and Boom. We also have FreeDOM. So we have like two kinds of things that are probably Doom based. Let's see what it does. Let's dir/w, and we have face1.bat and face2. Let's see what they do. Face1.bat. Well, all right then. It CDs and runs, and then it comes back. Okay then. I do not know why this needed to be a bat file, but we might as well use it. And here we are. Whoa, it's loading. This is much further along than I thought we could ever go. We'll see if the sound works and everything, and if it actually loads. Here it goes. Okay, here we are back with some testing and rejiggering later. It appears that it's not currently running anything that is requiring something more than just the text-based graphics. So maybe my bold claim that it supports all kinds of old GPUs might have been a bit premature, but we shall see. In the meanwhile, we can look at games that do not require graphics. Oh, how exciting. Let's see, we have, for example, Vi Tetris. That should probably work. And yes, indeed, it does. Wow. It is indeed Tetris. Actually, it reminds... It's actually resembling the original Tetris by Sergei Bugatnyov a bit more than a lot of the other ones. Or maybe the original DOS port. I have to admit that I don't know that much. Nor do I particularly care all that much. But I do enjoy Tetris quite a bit, and I'm not like the world's greatest at it, but, well, as you can see, but also I'm trying to talk at the same time, but I do enjoy myself a wee bit of Tetris. It is a fun, time-proven game. However, I'd say that's quite enough of that. We have things to explore, and one of them is this thing called PGME, which had its own folder, so it must be something very important. And it's a program manager, like a visual shell, which is cool. I can look at applications, editors, games, most importantly. Oh, there we can see Boom is a Doom clone, and FreeDOM is probably something that runs on the Doom engine or something. I don't know, because it did not work yet. Let's hope that it's a NetHack. I played NetHack back in the 90s. Could not understand any of it. Didn't help that I didn't really know much English back then. These days, I speak a bit of English. Not a lot, but a bit. But, yeah, we have all kinds of things here. Applications, not that many, like utilities or such. But we have a DOS navigator, which I assume is some kind of a file manager kind of a thing. If it runs, it does run. So yeah, we can look at the files here as well if we would like to do so. Apps has quite a lot of the very base apps that one would presumably need. Then we have, I assume FD Auto is like an auto exec equivalent. Utilities, we have 7-zip, which is cool. OS PIMG. We have the aforementioned games. So we have quite a lot of things to actually explore. But let's exit this one, and it takes us back, I assume, to the shell or the visual shell. And yes, here we go. So FreeDOS is running on this very weird, in between interesting eras computer, and to celebrate we can put great fireworks for everybody. Actually, is this text mode? I think it's some kind of a maybe EGA mode. Maybe EGA works on this thing as is. And there we have it. This thing in pretty much what I'd call a nutshell. FreeDOS installation was much smoother than what I expected and what I've experienced 20 years ago. Isn't it weird how software develops over 20 years? It's got an extremely satisfying keyboard. Maybe I'll make this into an actual writing device because it is so pleasant to type on. We'll see. I like myself some WordPerfect 4 at least. But what can I do with this? Well, I'm going to run some tests with graphics modes and such, and maybe I can run some things that I'll maybe cover in the next time when we are going to play some very exciting and rarely covered games on it. But in the meanwhile, enjoy DOScember and... Right, subscribe and shit.